Welcome to Revolutionary War Rarities, the podcast of the Sons of the American Revolution. Like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast in your favorite application. You can also follow our podcast at fastfunhistory.com. For education resources provided by the National Society Sons of the American Revolution, go to education.sar.org. And now, Revolutionary War Rarities.
Always Faithful, Season 2 of Revolutionary War Rarities, the podcast from the Sons of the American Revolution. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jim Griffith.
My name is Steve Holman.
And Steve, I appreciate you joining me today.
Sure.
You are no stranger to Revolutionary War Rarities. You're the producer, and I want everyone out there to know that you are the guy that actually puts the videos together.
I'm usually behind the camera, but today I'm going to be in front. So.
Yep. Well, we appreciate that. Today we are recording at the President's House in Montevallo, Alabama, at the American Village. This President's House is a replica of the Robert Morris home, where George and Martha Washington lived for the first 7 years of his presidency.
Right,
is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And so we're going to be talking with Alan Miller. Alan Miller, thank you for joining us. Alan is the CEO of the American Village here in Montevallo. He is a Marine, he is a lawyer, he is an entrepreneur, he is a well-accomplished individual. So we thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
I appreciate it. Well, and Jim, we've got a relationship with the Sons of the American Revolution that goes back, I'm sure, probably before the gates opened at American Village. We share the same mission, making sure that we have opportunities to educate our young people and all of our citizens about the founding of our great nation and their responsibilities as citizens. So we definitely appreciate the relationship that we continue to enjoy with the Sons of the American Revolution.
Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Well, Alan, as you know, we're going to be talking today about another founding, and that's the founding of something very close to you, which is the United States Marine Corps.
Alan, actually, I looked this up just to determine if it was proper. I didn't know, right? I just
Neither
wasn't
did I.
sure.
I'm glad you looked this up.
That's right, yeah. And you hear people say Semper Fi, and I thought, well, is it appropriate for me to say Semper Fi to a Marine? Because I feel it, but I wasn't a Marine. I feel that the joy of saying that to someone, but I'm not a Marine.
There is nothing improper about it. Of course, Semper Fidelis, always faithful, is the motto of the Marine Corps. To us, it is always faithful to our country, to our Corps, to the Constitution. But I think more than anything else, it is Semper Fidelis, always faithful to the Marine, to your left or to your right. And so it has great meaning to us. It's very important to us. Nothing at all improper for someone who's not been a Marine to say Semper Fidelis to someone who is a Marine. They're naturally going to assume that you either are or were a member of the Marine Corps. So it could, create some confusion, or it could be awkward at some point, but there's nothing at all improper about it.
Yeah. And is there anything, is there actually an ex-Marine that exists? I've always heard once a Marine, always a Marine.
I was actually corrected on that. So I used to report to a guy who's a Marine, and I said, we're a Marine, and he took about a minute, less than a second to correct me on that one, to say, no, you're never were a Marine, you are a Marine until you die.
Yeah, it's emblazoned in the heart and mind. There's no getting away from it.
I'm sure it is.
Got you. Yeah.
Parris Island?
I was Parris Island, and then after my time in Quantico, was commissioned as a second lieutenant.
Okay, very good.
Well, thanks for clearing that up.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll just stay safe on that one and leave it between the Marines. So Alan, when did the Marines begin?
Well, it's you ask any Marine and they will quickly tell you it's all about 10 November 1775. That's when the Marine Corps was initially established by resolution to the Second Continental Congress, written by a man by the name of John Adams, with which I think we're all familiar.
I've heard that name before.
Yeah,
Once or
that's
twice.
right. Yeah.
So we actually have the resolution, which I'll go ahead and read for you. So resolved that 2 battalions of Marines be raised, consisting of 1 colonel, 2 lieutenant colonels, 2 majors, and other officers as usual in other regiments, and that they consist of an equal number of privates and other battalions, that particular care be taken that no persons be appointed to office or enlisted into said battalions, such as are good seamen, or so acquainted with maritime affairs as to be able to serve to advantage by sea when required. That they be enlisted and commissioned to serve for and during the present war between Great Britain and the colonies, unless dismissed by order of Congress. That they be distinguished by the names of the 1st and 2nd Battalions of American Marines, and that they be considered as part of the number which the Continental Army before Boston is ordered to consist of. Ordered that a copy of the above be transmitted to the General.
Well,
I'd like to jump in and just add something here, just briefly. As part of this resolution that you read, Steve, it's important to note, in here it's written, no persons be appointed to office or enlisted into said battalions, but such are as good seamen, or so acquainted with maritime affairs as to be able to serve to advantage by sea when required. And actually, even today, if you look up the mission of the United States Marine Corps in Title 10 of the U.S. Code, it talks about the seizure and defense of forward naval bases. It talks about forcible entry operations through amphibious landings. And so always been maritime in nature, but that can be confusing to people, especially young people who are being recruited today. We just spent 20 years in conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right.
And people would look and say, well, what in the world could the maritime role of the Marine Corps been there? But that's where I think it's important to remember that the last line in the law says, and such other duties as the president may direct.
Right.
So that's sort of the
catch-all bucket, isn't it?
That's the catch-all. And so, that's where the fighting was, so that's where the Marines are going to be.
So whatever the commander-in-chief says, that's what you do.
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
But just to wrap that up, we always return to our roots, and we're doing that today. As a matter of fact, the Marine Corps is really heavily focused on the Pacific now, protecting sea lanes, any potential future conflict that may be coming at us. And so yes, we do what the president tells us to do, but we will always return to those roots, those maritime roots.
Sure. Now I understand that that the Marines were actually founded in no other place, and many other things were founded in these same locations in colonial days, and that was taverns, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's that's a fact that I'm sure every Marine is quite proud of. You have to not only have to maybe have a few adult beverages to raise your hand for this kind of thing, but the whole thing was kind of drawn up in a tavern to begin with. So I think that's something that every Marine knows it, and every Marine would be proud of it.
Now, it was founded, I understand, in Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. Tun, T-U-N,
that's
Tavern.
Right. Tun
and that
Tavern.
Building is gone now, correct?
That's right.
There's pictures of it?
There are pictures, and my understanding is that Philadelphia may be underway with trying to develop a replica of Tun Tavern.
Wonderful.
Neat.
Yeah.
That's great.
That'd be neat. And I'd done a little reading into it ahead of time as well, and apparently John Adams wasn't much for taverns, but he knew a recruiting event there would be successful, so hence the tavern recruiting event. And I'm sure that's not the last time that, it wasn't the first and it won't be the last time a Marine was recruited at a tavern.
That's
That's
probably
right.
true.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So one of the things that we like here at Revolutionary War Rarities are the little known, rarely taught, rarely understood information associated with any topic that we bring up. And we're certainly interested in that here as it relates to the Marines. So I'm just curious, could you share some little known information about the Marines?
There are a few items that may not be as well known as others. The first actual amphibious assault conducted by the Marines occurred really short time after the founding against Nassau in the Bahamas. Of course, that's where we're going to want to go. First mission,
Right.
It's better than Greenland, right?
Right, yeah.
Are there taverns down in the Bahamas?
I'm sure there were,
Yeah.
And probably still are. You might find a Marine or two in Nassau, even today. You mentioned the recruiting event at Tun Tavern, and I think I may have briefly mentioned that not only was the recruiting occurring there, but the resolution that established the Marine Corps was actually drafted there. The first African-American Marine, a man by the name of John Martin, was recruited by Captain Miles Pennington. And Mr. Martin had been a slave at the time, recruited away from his owner without his permission. And let that be a lesson to all the moms and dads out there. Recruiters are running around talking to your sons and daughters. They're not probably going to ask for your permission, so just be aware of that.
Right.
But that's in keeping with the finest Marine Corps and naval traditions. That's how they're conducting business today.
Sure.
There was a second amphibious landing against Nassau in 1778. And that is the first time that the American flag was raised on foreign soil. And then the last...
In Nassau?
In Nassau.
Okay.
That's
All
right. And then the last action by Marines taken during the American Revolution was in 1781, escorting a supply of silver from Boston to Philadelphia. That silver had been loaned by King Louis the 16th and was used to establish the first central bank. I think it was the Bank of North America. And that's a great example of Marines doing such other missions as the President may from time to time direct.
Sure. Well, Alan, we cannot thank you enough for letting us do this here today. I can't thank you enough for your time, for being part of Revolutionary War Rarities. This is an incredible campus that provides such a unique service to citizens all over. You don't have to be in Alabama to enjoy the lessons that can be learned here at the American Village here in Montevallo. And we're just so thankful to have you with us today.
Well, I appreciate you all being here. And like you said, we have guests from across the country, and in the summertime we get guests from across the world. So
Wow.
I feel a little bit guilty sometimes, Jim, because it doesn't feel like I'm coming to work. I've got the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Well, thank you for your service to the country. We appreciate that as well.
It's been my pleasure.
And so it goes. The Marines have played a critical role within the United States since almost the very beginning. During the American Revolution, the Marines had 49 men killed in action and 70 wounded. There were approximately 2,000 enlisted Marines during the Revolution, and today the Marines are about 180,000 strong with another 32,400 reserve personnel. From Nassau, Bahamas to the shores of Tripoli, they fight our country's battles in the air, on land, and sea. First to fight for right and freedom and to keep our honor clean, we are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. I wish I could claim that title myself.
Yeah.
To learn more about the founding of the United States Marine Corps, we highly recommend the book Washington's Marines, The Origins of the Corps and the American Revolution by Major General Jason Bohm, available wherever books are sold. Alan Miller, once again, thank you for your time here today.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been my pleasure.
My name is Jim Griffith.
My name is Steve Homan. I thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode in a few weeks. This has been a production of the National Society, Sons of the American Revolution, www.sar.org.